Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb,
And I'm Dad.
and we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad, how are you?
I've been better, Sweb. I've been better.
Me too. First off, it took us about an hour to get started because of computer issues on both sides here.
It's been a rough 2 days, Sweb.
It's been a rough 2 days. So, why don't you tell the people why has it been a rough 2 days?
Well, yesterday Michigan and Texas played.
Saturday,
Saturday.
Michigan and Texas played. Yep.
Well, Texas played. And then after the game was over, after Texas beat Michigan, what was the final score? 31-12, something like that. Michigan hadn't lost a game since 2022. So I wasn't used to this, Sweb. It took me 2 hours to clean up the living room. Then when I finished cleaning up the living room, I had to go out and buy a new TV.
Well, that means you're in the market for a bigger TV.
Well, I vomited all over the floor in the living room, and then I vomited on the TV. So I ran right out and got a new TV, and it took me 2 hours to sterilize the carpeting and everything else in the room.
And
It
how
was a,
long did you cry for?
I didn't cry. I couldn't stop throwing up.
Okay. Well, you might need to see someone for that. Um,
And then today, Sweb, was another rough
Sunday.
Sunday, another rough day. I fly
Why?
I fly down to Florida. I get on the plane. I'm assigned the middle seat. I get on the plane first. Lady comes on, an old lady, probably like your mother's age. And she comes and sits down next to me against the window. And she pulls out her laptop, starts looking at a movie. And then she puts one of those pillow neck braces around her. She shuts the shades on the window, puts her head up against the wall, starts going to sleep. So, and then a guy comes on, looks like he's about 6'8", comes on, nice Adidas sweatsuit. I said, "Oh," and he says, "Is this?" I said, "Yeah, right here." I figured this is a guy that I can talk to I can kill probably an hour or two talking about sports. Next thing I know, he puts on an N95 mask, and then just when the plane is getting ready to take off, and they say, "Okay, everybody in your seats, don't move," he calls the stewardess, the flight attendant over, and asks if he can go to the bathroom. This guy is like 30 years old, and she says, "You heard the pilot. You can't move." He says, "Well, it's an emergency. An emergency test for a 30-year-old guy to go to the bathroom." Okay. What, did he drink a gallon of water before he got on a plane? So they say, "Yeah, go ahead." So he goes, comes back. Next thing you know, he still's got the mask on. Then he puts on blindfolds. Then he puts on headphones. Then he puts his head up against the seat in front of him. And I'm looking at this guy. I'm going to say, what am I dealing with here? And like you've traveled with me. You know the way I like to kind of spread out in the seat, Sweat. Now I got to worry for 2.5 hours. I got to worry about, I got to squinch up. I don't want to touch this guy and wake this guy up. I don't want to wake the lady up. And, it's crazy, Sweat. So it's been rough.
Did you ever think that people are saying, oh boy, when you walk down the aisle of a plane
Why would they say
with
that?
your big behind and you get the middle seat? Do you ever think that people are worried about you? Oh, here comes this big guy who's going to be encroaching on my space.
No,
Did you
because
ever think of that?
I never thought I don't look at things that way, Sweat. I was in
Maybe
this
it's time to take a look in the mirror, my friend.
I was in the seat first before they got on the plane. But you
And you
really
know what? We've all been there where we're like, is that my row? Or is that, oh, I hope that's not my row. Oh, man, that's my row. It can go both ways.
do you think people really think that when I'm walking on a plane?
Yes.
Oh God. Okay. I gotta do something about that.
Yeah, time to take some laps around the old neighborhood.
Okay. Okay, let's get down to business, Web. Stop fooling
Well,
around.
I'm listening to your problems and you haven't asked me about mine. I've had longer than a long 2 days. I've had a terrible week.
What happened, Sweb?
We've got Disney and DirecTV in a dispute. And so
Oh,
I haven't had ESPN or ABC for a full week. And the thing is,
that's a
it's
problem.
not like anyone from I have DirecTV Stream, which I decided to do because cable had gotten so expensive that I said, "Let me start streaming." It was AT&T Stream back in the day. I got it because it was the only one out of YouTube TV, Hulu, Fubo, XYZ, ABCDEFG. It was the only one that had the Yes Network for Yankee games and MSG Network, obviously, for Knicks and Rangers games. So I had to go with this one. At the time, there was a promotion. It was like $70 cable and internet was like 140 for one TV in a one-bedroom apartment. So I said, okay, no problem. I'm going to do it. Next thing I know, their promotion goes out the window after a year, after you're hooked, after the DVR is stacked with all your shows, and the price goes up. So now I'm paying more than I was paying for cable and internet because now I have stream, but I still have to pay for internet through Spectrum. And now this week, the first week of college football, there's a dispute. And it's not like anyone from DirecTV is calling me to say, hey, sorry, it's we're going to give you a month free. My DVR is still recording ESPN, so I'm thinking, okay, let me just check in today, see how it's going. Sorry, we're in a dispute. We'll get back to you. My DVR is still recording ESPN, some college volleyball matches, The Bachelorette, you name it. It's still recording things, and then I go to the recording thinking, oh, hey, maybe the channel's back. Psych, it's not back. It's just recording this screen that says, sorry, we're in a dispute. We've been in a dispute for a week. So I was going to give these people a week because we're right at the end of baseball season. So now I have to figure out which platform has Yes Network. We're about to start the NBA and NHL seasons. MSG and Yes Network are launching their own network, but it hasn't started yet. So I was giving Disney and DirecTV 1 week to figure things out. 1 week. I've missed the whole entire US Open. I wasn't really paying attention to The Bachelorette anyway, so I had deleted that off the DVR anyway, even though I heard that the ending was quite good. And now the Jets play Monday night, and I'm not going to have access to the game. So I'm switching things up. Tomorrow, I'm calling, and I'm going to get a discount, but I'm switching things up, and I'm going to subscribe. Maybe I'll do a 3-day free trial to YouTube TV, give them a few more days, and if they can't get it together, I'm out.
So what would you do? YouTube TV?
I would do YouTube TV, and then I would have to buy the MSG app and hook it up to my TV or Yes Network. I'll have to look into that. But right now, it's important to have Yes Network because we're in baseball season. It's not as important to have MSG, but I'm not happy.
Your brother has YouTube TV.
He has YouTube TV. He also lives in South Carolina, so he's not getting access to regional sports networks. He has to get the MLB package, he has to get the NBA package to be able to have the local networks. But this is my problem with all of it. We all started cutting the cord because it was cheaper to have, to stream and to not have cable. Now I need to have this package here to watch NFL games. I need to have this package here to watch NBA games. I need to have this package to watch MLB games. I need to have a regular package to watch the 10 or so regular channels that I would have if I just had cable. And then you've got your Prime, you've got your Hulu, you've got your Peacock, Paramount, all Disney, all of these. And now I'm paying, and I don't even have all of them, but I'm paying between cable and between internet and streaming, I'm paying close to $200 for one TV. So I've had it. I've had it with the whole entire system. I've had it with the whole entire system. Okay? It was supposed to be cheaper. You know what would be better is if they let everyone just choose, hey, you tell us what channels you watch. Okay. If it's a sports network, it's a regional sports network, and you don't live in that state, fine. You can't access it. I understand that. But you tell us what you watch. Okay, I watch ESPN. Oh, and by the way, ESPN also includes ACC Network. It includes SEC Network. So I can't even watch University of Miami playing Texas volleyball yesterday when they upset them, the number one team in the country. I can't even watch
Wow.
that. If Miami, and granted Miami played FAMU in football on Saturday, that game wasn't on, now you have to have all the pluses to be able to watch everything. So I wasn't going to be able to watch that game anyway. But if they could just let you, okay, I watch Bravo, I watch HGTV, I watch Food Network, I watch MTV, I watch ESPN, and I watch ABC, NBC, and CBS and MSG and Yes. And they just let you choose what you pay $2 a channel. I would be so much richer. I'd have money to do whatever I wanted to because I would only be paying for the channels that I watch.
Wouldn't
So
that
it's
be
been a
nice?
tough week. It's been
That's
a
been
tough week.
horrible, man.
Could you imagine?
No,
Could
I
you
can't.
imagine
No,
if
no,
you didn't have Yes Network?
no. I can't imagine that. And ESPN and all those networks? No, I can't imagine that.
Let me tell you, thank God DirecTV wasn't in a dispute with NBC during the Olympics, because I would have gone down there and I would have walked right into the CEO's office and I would have said, "Stop it."
I can't even imagine that. You put up with that all week. So you missed, or I was watching the Miami game on the computer last night, the ACC plus.
Yeah. So
But
now
I,
I have
I
to have,
pay an extra $9 a month for that.
right, see? This is how they get you. You got to have the pluses, you got to have the minuses, you got to have the one, twos, and threes. It- down with the whole entire system.
That's a problem. And then you
Yeah.
miss the US Open.
Yeah, I missed the US Open. We had all these Americans in the semifinals and finals. I was supposed to go to one of the day sessions. I had a client go, and at the last minute she couldn't because her daughter had gotten sick. But I've missed the whole thing. Men's finals happening right now. Missed the whole thing.
So you were going to take a client out there to
I
the
was,
US?
and it ended up not happening, which is okay. Things happen, but that's outside of my control, this whole dispute between two companies, and the thing is, I'm not even sure who I'm mad. I'm definitely mad at Disney because they have the leverage,
Who
right?
owns ESPN?
Who owns ESPN and ABC. So I'm definitely mad at them because they have the leverage. But what's going to end up happening here? What's the end result? I'm going to get an email in a week saying that your prices have gone up $2 a month. And at the time, it doesn't feel like $2 a month. Okay, that's $24 for the year. That's nothing. You add that to everything else we're paying for that's gone up 5, 10, $20. You know that a pound of ground beef in a New York City grocery store is about $15.
In Manhattan?
Yes.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. So it's been a tough week. But you know what? We've spiraled. We got to reel it back in. It's football season. The Jets play Monday night against the 49ers. This is going to be a tough game for them. Before we dive into both the Giants and the Jets, there's been some NFL news this week. Dak Prescott
Oh man.
signs for the biggest contract in the history of the NFL. 4 years, $240 million, $60 million a year. 231 million of that is guaranteed. I'm going to call up Dak Prescott and see if he'll pay for my NFL Network and my all of the TV subscriptions that I need to be able to watch the games this season.
He should invite you to his suite at the Cowboy Stadium.
So when I last checked an hour ago, before we had all these IT issues to record the show on Sunday night, the Cowboys were up. But Dad, I can't. I'm all for people getting paid. Dak Prescott, great guy, has always been a great team guy. I can't help but think of all the quarterbacks and all the players in the NFL, in the history of the NFL, I don't think that Dak Prescott should have the biggest contract in history. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's crazy. The guy's won 2 playoff games in his career. They were arguing about this on First Take about 2 weeks ago, how much he should get. And the consensus was that you can't pay him that kind of money. And if you looked at some of the results from Sunday's games, some of these high paid quarterbacks didn't do too well today. Some of them did not do well, and their teams lost. You can't, I don't care who the quarterback is, you can't give all your money to one guy because you need 53 men to win. You need offensive linemen, defensive linemen, a good defense. You need running backs. You need wide receivers. If you give so much money to one guy, and I can't understand if he's that serious about winning a Super Bowl, why would he even take that much money? Do you know how many
It,
commercials this guy's on in Texas? He could live just off his his endorsements down there. When you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, that is big. And he doesn't get in trouble. He's an upstanding citizen, clean cut guy, no problems. He's there. Everybody likes him in Dallas, except he can't win the big games.
yeah, it's really twofold, right? It is the fact that he is shouldn't be the highest paid quarterback or player in the NFL for someone who's only won 2 playoff games. But then there's also the element of, and once again, I'm all for people getting paid, but we've been talking about this. We talked about this with Aaron Judge or no, with Jalen Brunson and the contract that he just signed with the Knicks. When you take all the money, there isn't enough left for everyone else.
Right. In a sport that has a salary cap, like NBA, NFL, they have salary caps. NHL, hockey, they have salary cap. Baseball doesn't technically have a salary cap, but they do because you have to pay tax if you
The
go over
luxury
certain
tax.
the luxury tax when you go over certain thresholds. So everything is capped. So if you take these crazy contracts, now that doesn't leave enough so they can get other players to put around you so the team can win. And where I come from, it's all about winning. Yes, we want to get money. I'm a capitalist. We all want to make money. I want to see everybody make as much money as they can. But in these particular sports, where there's a limit to how much the owner can spend on a team, on the whole roster, you got to kind of back off a little bit and take a little less money. It's crazy, $60 million. Steph Curry just signed a contract for $62 million for his when he's 39 years old. Okay,
He's not 39. I think he's like
no,
37.
he'll be 39 in that
Got
last
it.
year, that extension. It's crazy. That tells me
And
right away he doesn't care about winning anymore. He just wants to just
that
rake it in.
tells me he's won enough and now he's just hoarding.
Yeah. Meanwhile, every time
Okay.
I turn on the TV, he's in a commercial. So come on, what are we doing here?
All right. Well, the Dallas Cowboys at the time of recording are beating the Browns. So good luck to them. I have nothing against the Cowboys. It is fun to see them suffer in the months of December and January. But I'm more worried about my own team. And when you're a fan of the Jets, you really have no leg to stand on. So, Dad, what are your thoughts going into the Jet season? As I mentioned, they kick off the season on Monday night against the 49ers. Aaron Rodgers is back. We know what happened last year, 2 minutes into the game. What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen this season for the Jets?
What do I hope that's going to happen, or what do I think is going to happen?
Well, let's start with what you hope is going to happen.
What I hope is going to happen is they have a great season. They go on to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. The last time they were in a Super Bowl, I was in middle school. Now I'm an old man. Get off my lawn, Swebb.
That's right. You are an old man. And we were talking about, remember, we were talking about frequencies of the AM radio last week. So just to give people a sense of how old you really are and a full head of gray hair.
At least I have a full head of hair. Those were the days with the AM radio, picking up games from different towns, different states, listening to all these different announcers.
We know how excited you were about that. So what do you think is going to happen for the Jets? They've had the past couple seasons, the offensive line has been virtually invisible. So, what do you think is going to happen? Did they do enough this offseason through the draft and free agency to get an offensive line that can protect Aaron Rodgers?
They improved the offensive line tremendously. They probably now have a good offensive line. Their wide receivers, they picked up a few wide receivers. They drafted one that's real good. They already had one. They have a few good tight ends. They signed a free agent wide receiver, Williams, from the
Mike
chart.
Williams, yeah.
He's good. He tore his ACL last year, but he started working out the last few weeks, and he's ready to go. Their defense is solid. Their defense is real good. They have a real good pass rush. Even though the trade they made from Reddick from the Eagles, he is holding out still. Guy's a knucklehead. He wants an extension on his contract. I can't blame any football player for wanting more money because the next play could be your last play. But so he's still holding out. But even without him, they have a real good pass rush. They have a tremendous secondary. They're good to go. Um, Rodgers really hasn't played in 2 years. He's 40 years old. Let's see what he looks like. Um, but their running game is so good that he doesn't have to be throwing for 500 yards a game. He could have a nice game, and we'll see what happens.
It's a tough game to start the season playing against the 49ers, which we know they were in the Super Bowl last year. So, if they get a win, that's great. I'll feel really good. If they're very competitive, and you hate to just want to compete and have that be it, but as I mentioned 2 weeks ago or last week, I think, with college football and how I like to keep my expectations low, I'm going to do the same thing with the Jets. I'm obviously hoping for a great season, making the playoffs, maybe making it a few rounds into the playoffs, but I'm tempering my expectations.
This is what the Jets have to do. The Jets have to win their division, okay? Play real good football all season, regardless of who gets hurt, whatever happens, win their division, get into the playoffs, and at least win one game. The AFC is very tough. There's a lot of good teams, but some of those real good teams got knocked off today. Okay.
And
And
the
some of them,
AFC East is very good.
AFC is real good. And some of those good teams won, but just barely won. So the Jets need to get in the playoffs, get tough, and let's get going, get in the playoffs and win at least one game in the playoffs. At least one game. That's what they have to do. Just competing and going 500, what is that, 9-8, or that's not going to be good enough because this has been too long. They've got to get into the playoffs and start winning playoff games. That's what they have to do. There's no more
And they have to
excuses.
protect the quarterback.
Well, if you don't protect the quarterback, then he's not going to make it.
Right.
Because remember, he's 40 years old. That's like me running around trying to get away from pass rushes.
And you're pretty slow. You were no Aaron Rodgers back in your day.
But do you think I could still throw, Swebb?
No, I've seen you. Absolutely not.
I used to be able to throw real well.
Okay. So let's move on to the Giants because I know we have some folks that watch and tune in that are Giants fans. They lose on Sunday to the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold, starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, Sammy D, throws for 2 touchdowns against the Giants. They end up losing the game 28-6.
That was the
What are your
Jet.
thoughts on the Giants?
That was the Jet quarterback 3 years ago, 3 quarterbacks ago. And that's why you got to have patience with the young guys. You draft these guys, you throw them on the field, and you think they're supposed to go out and win a Super Bowl right away. It takes these guys a while to develop. Okay, and now who knows? He might wind up having a good season. Just think,
We'll see.
Giants. The Giants will probably have a real good defense, but their offense is going to suffer because their quarterback. Who knows? It's
Yeah.
what is his fifth year? I think it's his fifth year. He's making a lot of money now. They gave away Barkley, let him
Saquon,
go.
who had a great game on Thursday night or
Right, he
Friday
scored
night.
Friday night. He scored 3 touchdowns. They let him get away. What they probably got to hope for is a high draft pick now, and see if they can get a top quarterback out of the draft, or save that money, spread it out amongst other guys, and sign a good free agent quarterback, an experienced quarterback. It's very tough for a rookie quarterback to make it in New York. Between the media getting negative and the fans getting negative, and the pressure, and then you're not on a good team to begin with. It's tough.
The
Ask
ideal situation is to have a veteran quarterback. You draft a young quarterback. He sits on the bench and learns for a season or two, and then by year three, he understands what means to be a quarterback of a team, a winning quarterback of a team. It's what the Packers did from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and it's what they did from Aaron Rodgers um, to the quarterback that they have now.
Love.
So Jordan Love, right? So it's tough, but we're 1 week in. We'll take it week by week. You talked about, if we go back to college football, you talked about Michigan. Texas is a tough team. You already said you don't make predictions, and it's a good thing you didn't, because they're not going to win the national championship this year, which I think we already knew.
Because
But
they're sitting there with a walk-on quarterback. There's no way the University of Michigan should have a walk-on quarterback starting for them. They didn't hit the um,
transfer portal.
transfer portal hard enough. That was the problem. Then there was a lot of confusion with Harbaugh staying, going, staying, going. It messes up your recruiting. He did that a few years in a row. Messes up your recruiting, and it messes up your opportunities to hit the transfer portal and get the kind of players you need. Texas, they were in the playoffs last year, the Final Four teams, and they went out, hit the transfer portal hard, and they're going to have a real good team this year.
Yeah, they had guys from Alabama on that squad. Now they have some depth, and they look like a legitimate contender for a national championship. Speaking of transfer portal, my Miami Hurricanes,
Mm,
Dad, we
mm.
finally have a quarterback. Eureka! We finally have a quarterback. His name is Cam Ward. He came from Washington State. Now, granted, Florida wasn't really that good, but hey, we've talked about this. These are games that sometimes would be a little too close. In week 1 of the season, they play Florida, they go out and they blow them out in Gainesville. This past weekend, they play Florida A&M, so they're supposed to win that game, and they won 56-9. But these are teams in the past and games in the past where Florida, maybe it's close and they squeeze out a win, or they let the game get away. And FAMU, they should blow them out by 40. And sometimes these are games where maybe they only win by 20 and you're not really sure what's going to happen when they play someone good. So I'm excited because the Miami Hurricanes have a quarterback for the first time since Ken Dorsey. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Do you know what year that was?
That
That
was
was
2001.
that was before you went to the school.
That was, yes, that was before I went to the school.
He's a coach
Um,
on some NFL team now,
I think he's the coach on the Bills. Uh, it's been a long time, folks, and
and you got an offensive line,
we have an offensive line. We have
and you
some
got a
legitimate
defensive line.
receivers. And the defense has been, over the past 20 years, the defense has usually been pretty good for the Hurricanes. But what happens is when you're on the field the whole time, after a while, these guys get tired. They start getting sloppy, and they always have way too many penalties. But what I'm seeing this year from the Miami Hurricanes, they have a quarterback who can throw the ball, but can
Mm.
also move outside of the pocket. Um, I feel really good because their schedule is pretty beatable the whole way through. I think they played Georgia Tech in November in Atlanta, which is likely one of their toughest games. I thought Florida State for homecoming in Miami in end of in October was going to be a tough game, but they're garbage. So I feel really good. And knowing now that the college football playoff, it, the it, the structure of it has changed to where there will be more teams let into it. If Miami plays the way that they've played these past 2 weeks, they could find themselves a spot in the college football playoffs. Just knowing their schedule, because there's going to be another. Now, remember, the Big Ten, we talked about this last week, in the SEC, with all the restructuring and realignment of the conferences. Now, in the SEC, you have Georgia, you have Alabama, you have Texas, you have Oklahoma. In the Big Ten, you've got USC, UCLA, Michigan, Ohio State. So
Penn State.
Penn State. So this is some of these teams, there are going to be some teams that have 2 losses, potentially even 3 losses getting into the college football playoffs. If Miami can play in the way that they've played this whole entire season, now I know I'm supposed to be tempering my expectations, but there's a legitimate chance that they could end up undefeated in the mix.
There's a real good chance the Miami could run the table, be undefeated going into that playoff, and get. I think the top 4 teams get a bye. You don't even have to play the first week.
Right. And then they'll get beat down by Texas or Georgia, but hey,
No, no, you
girl,
wouldn't. You if you got a bye the first week, you wouldn't have to play a
right.
Texas or a Georgia right away. You'd be playing with some of the weaker teams because they might get. They might also get beat. The other teams getting buys.
Something tells me, because it doesn't do, as much as I love to see Florida State fans suffer, it doesn't do any good to see Florida State be garbage, because you'd rather have a really good Florida State team that when you go and play them for homecoming, you beat them. It doesn't do any good if the whole conference is garbage, because the way that these pundits vote on who should be in the playoffs, if they don't really have a legitimate strength of schedule, they're not going to be a top 4 seed, even if they do go undefeated. We saw this with Florida State not making it last year in the top 4. So it, it's only week 2. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I am very pleased with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, you're in good shape. You're in good shape. The schedule's good. You don't have to play any real tough teams. And some of the teams that people thought were going to be good look like they might not be good. Miami is. This looks like the best Miami team. It's only 2 games, but it looks like the best Miami team I've seen there in over 20 years.
Right.
That could be incredible. Are you
Could be
going
great.
down there? Are you going down there for a game?
I think I'm going to go down for homecoming. Why not?
Mm.
Against Florida State, end of October. It'll be great.
Jumping on that bandwagon, Swebb, huh?
I got to get, well, you should see my cart. I'm either going to get a Miami sweatshirt or a jacket that I could wear proudly now, now that we're back, instead of just in the confines of my apartment like I'm doing with this sweatshirt.
Oh
All
man.
right.
Yeah.
So we'll close things out with a little baseball. The Mets go 5-1 on the week. They lose on Sunday to the Reds 3-1. The Yankees go 3-3 on the road this week. They lose on Sunday 2-1 to the Cubs. This week the Yankees will face the Royals and Red Sox at home. The Mets will go on the road and they'll face the Blue Jays and Phillies. What are your thoughts on both
Well,
teams, Dad?
the Mets came off of a 9-game winning streak. They're about as hot as there is in Major League Baseball. They lost on Sunday, but they're red hot. They're tied with, I think, Atlanta won on Sunday, so they're tied with Atlanta for the final wild card spot.
Speaking of the streak, did you see Vientos with the walk-off homer on Friday night?
That guy is good.
Did you see him shirtless?
I saw pictures on the internet of they ripped his shirt off after they doused him with water.
He
What about?
looked like you.
What do you mean?
I, I don't want to body shame anyone, but these baseball players, man, they
What do
don't
you?
exactly they don't exactly have the bodies of top tier athletes.
What do you mean? He looked like me?
He
He
had a
just
stomach
he
that
has
looks
like
like me
he
on a
has
Thanksgiving day after Thanksgiving.
he has over 20 something homers this year, I think.
He has over 20 something homers, and he looks like he just drank a 12 pack of beer.
He's good though. He's good. The whole team started turning around when they started putting him in the lineup. That
Hey,
guy's
listen, you
he has
can't
a
judge
shot
a
to
book by its cover.
that guy
If the
has a
cover
shot
is
to
loose,
that guy if he keeps working, that guy has a shot to have a tremendous career. That guy is good.
he's not doing baseball players any favors. These guys already have to be put on the DL when they have a blister on their
Well,
fingers,
do you remember
squeezing into those baseball pants.
do you remember CC Sabathia?
Yeah,
Okay.
but at least
He has a chance for the Hall of Fame. Remember what he looked
so
like? And
I don't.
if you want to go back to the 60s, Google a picture of Mickey Lolich, who
These
Detroit
guys were.
Tiger left-handed. It was real good.
It's
Wil Wilbur Wood, a
I
lefty
wouldn't have
knuckleball
said
pitch.
anything if the shirt didn't come off on the walk-off homer. It, you know what? Where are his good friends on the team that say, "No, no, 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 keep the jersey on. Keep the jersey on." If one of
He's
my
good.
friends did that to me and I had that loose of a stomach on a the Black Friday after Thanksgiving, we wouldn't be friends anymore.
Hey, nobody cares how you think Met fans care what he looks like with his shirt off?
Just as long as they're winning. But I saw that.
He's one of the best plays they've had in years. They could care less about that.
Whew, boy. All right. Well, yes, the Mets are hot right now. The Yankees are scuffling a little bit, but they can turn it around this week during this homestand. We still got to get out to a game before the regular season ends. Dad,
Yes.
what are you looking forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to a lot of good action there, Swebb. I'm looking forward to Michigan winning a game next Saturday. I'm
They
looking
better against Arkansas State.
I'm looking forward to the Yankees getting more consistent. I'm looking forward to a big Jet win in San Francisco on Monday night. Don't be surprised, Swebb. Don't be
And
shocked.
and you're looking forward to working on that tan down in Florida
Yeah. I'm getting a
with the
little pale.
seashells behind your head,
Yes.
the
I'm getting a
sand
little
dollars that you have on the wall there.
I'm getting a little pale, Swebb. That's why I came down here for a few days. Oh,
And
and I'm going to see you next weekend in South Carolina, celebrating my grandson's birthday.
yep, I shall see you soon.
He's
It's
been
going to be
saying
great.
he's been saying for about 2 years that he's 5. Now he's going to finally be 5,
It's a big day for the kid.
and I'll be down there with him for a few days to start working him out, getting him, getting a nice swing going, uh, hit him some ground bals, shoot some
Maybe we should
baskets.
leave that to his father,
Your
who is an actual college athlete.
your brother put up a hoop in his driveway, so that's going. Shoot a little hoop with the young man.
Okay, I'll make sure to get some footage of you hooping so I can put that up so that people can finally know what I'm talking about when I
I
say
Hey,
you don't have game.
I could shoot the ball. Ask my man Bruce. I
All right.
could shoot the ball.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the show. What is your dad tip of the week?
Uh, Tip of the week, Sweb. If you want to get a good tan, come to Florida. And when you get on a plane, be careful who's sitting next to you. And if you got some weirdos sitting next to you, make yourself real small.
I would have loved to see you try and make yourself real
I
small.
had to.
I'll say, hey, listen, I'm not sure what the connection will look like when I edit this video, but if you do travel, make sure you've got a good wireless connection because if dad looks a little fuzzy, it's because he's in Florida and the Wi Fi is not that strong. And switch to YouTube or Hulu. I'll keep you posted because I might have a new tip next week on who is the right provider.
Sounds good. I would have been pulling my hair out if that had happened to me. Can you imagine me? No ESPN, no Yes, no MSG, no this, no that.
You would have gone down to the offices of.
Yeah, you got that right.
So, all right. Well, I think this week will be better for me because I'm going to make some changes. here. I'm certainly going to call tomorrow and complain and try and get my bill down a bit. You know, if you're not going to give me some of the core channels that I need to survive, then listen, I'm going to give your girl a discount along with everyone else. I'm a woman of the people, so I'm fighting. This isn't just for me. This is for everybody. But that concludes this week's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. It's been quite the week. Make sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. Subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and share this episode with friends. And until then, we'll see you next week. Go Jets!
So long.
Thank you for tuning into Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.